The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Katie Morgan stepped onto Station Verith 7 for the first time. She was 19 years old, with brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail and green eyes that took in everything around her. By Earth standards, she was average. Pretty, but not stunning. Athletic, but not exceptional. The kind of girl you might pass on any street back home without a second glance, but she was not on Earth anymore, and out here, among the stars. There was nothing average about her at all. The Galactic Military Academy had existed for over 200 years. It trained the best soldiers, pilots, and commanders from dozens of species across known space. The tall, graceful Valith, with their skin made of living crystal. The four-armed Korathi, famous for their brilliant tactical minds. The massive Thornery, covered in scales and armed with natural claws that could cut through metal. The stocky Braxi with bones so dense they could survive falls that would kill most other species. In all that time, in all those years, no human had ever walked these halls. Katie was the first. She felt the stares immediately. Aliens of every shape and size turned to watch her pass. Some of them whispered to each other in languages her translator could not quite catch. Others simply stopped and looked, their strange eyes following her every movement. She knew what they were thinking. She had read all the briefings before leaving Earth. She knew what the galaxy thought of her species. Humans came from a Class 12 death world. That was the official designation. It meant that Earth was one of the most dangerous planets in the known galaxy. The gravity was heavy enough to crush most species. The atmosphere contained a gas called oxygen that was highly corrosive and flammable. The planet was covered in bacteria, viruses, and parasites that were constantly evolving to become more deadly. The wildlife included predators with hundreds of teeth, insects that drank blood, and plants that produced actual poison. And then there were the natural disasters. Earthquakes that shook the ground. Hurricanes that threw winds faster than most spacecraft. Volcanoes that covered entire regions in fire. Floods, droughts, ice ages, and mass extinctions. Earth was a planet that seemed designed to kill everything on it, and yet humans had not only survived, they had thrived. They had built cities and civilizations. They had developed art and music and science. They had reached the stars. The galaxy did not know what to make of them. Some species were afraid. They looked at humans and saw monsters wearing friendly faces, predators who had learned to smile. They whispered that humans were too dangerous to trust. They should be contained or destroyed before they became a threat to everyone else. Other species were curious. They wanted to study humans, to understand how creatures so physically unremarkable had survived on such a deadly world. There had to be a trick, they thought. Some hidden advantage that was not immediately obvious. A few species were excited. They saw humans as potential allies, as partners who could help them face the dangers of an uncaring universe. If humans could survive Earth, they reasoned, then humans could survive anything. Katie did not care what any of them thought. She was here to learn, to train, and to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars. Everything else was just noise. A Korathi officer met her at the entrance to the main building. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms that moved independently of each other. His uniform was crisp and perfect, and his eyes were cold. "Cadet Morgan," he said. His voice was flat without any warmth. "I am Lieutenant Commander Sarath. I will escort you to your quarters and provide you with your schedule." "Thank you, sir," Katie said. They walked through the station in silence. Katie noticed that the lieutenant commander kept a careful distance from her, as if he was afraid she might bite. She pretended not to notice. Her quarters were small but clean. A bed, a desk, a storage unit for her belongings, and a window that looked out into space. It was not much different from her room at the Earth Defense Academy back home. "Your first class is tomorrow morning," Lieutenant Commander Sarath said. "Interspecies combat theory with Commander Veth. Do not be late." "I won't be, sir." He looked at her for a long moment, his 4 eyes studying her face. Then he turned and left without another word. Katie unpacked her things slowly. She had not brought much. Some clothes, some personal items, a few pictures of her family back on Earth, her mother and father. Her younger brother Danny, who was only 12 but already talked about joining the space program someday. She looked at the picture for a long time. They were all smiling, standing in front of their house in Colorado. The sky behind them was blue, and the mountains in the distance were covered in snow. She missed them already. But she knew this was important. She was not just here for herself. She was here for all of humanity. Every success she had, every friend she made, every test she passed would help prove that humans could be trusted. That they were not the monsters some species feared. It was a lot of pressure for one person. But Katie had grown up on Earth. She was used to pressure the next morning. She woke early and made her way to Training Hall 9. The corridors were busier now, filled with cadets rushing to their classes. Most of them gave her a wide berth, stepping aside as she approached and watching her pass with wary eyes. She found the training hall without trouble. It was a large open space with high ceilings and padded floors. Racks of training weapons lined the walls, and holographic displays showed diagrams of various fighting styles. About 24 cadets were already there. They stood in small groups, talking quietly among themselves. When Katie entered, every conversation stopped. She walked to an empty spot near the back of the room and stood at attention. A Valeth cadet standing nearby shifted away from her, his crystal skin flickering with patterns that Katie did not recognize. A few minutes later, the instructor arrived. Commander Veth was a Korathai, older than Lieutenant Commander Soreth. With scars on 2 of his forearms and a patch over one of his eyes, he moved with the careful precision of someone who had seen real combat and survived. "Good morning, cadets," he said. His voice was rough, but strong. "Today we begin your education in interspecies combat theory. By the time you graduate from this academy, you will understand how to fight alongside allies of any species and against enemies of any species. You will learn their strengths and their weaknesses. You will learn how to survive." He paused and looked around the room. His remaining eyes found Katie, and he held her gaze for a moment. "I understand we have a new addition to our class, Cadet Morgan from Earth." Katie nodded. "Yes, sir. I have read your file, Cadet. Impressive scores. Top of your class at the Earth Defense Academy. Expert ratings in hand-to-hand combat, small arms, and tactical thinking." "Thank you, sir," Commander Veth grunted. "We will see if those ratings mean anything here. In this class, everyone starts from 0. Understood?" "Understood, sir." Turned back to the rest of the class. "Now then, let us begin." Katie listened carefully as the commander began his lecture. She took notes on her datapad, asked questions when appropriate, did her best to learn. She did not notice the 4 cadets in the corner of the room. She did not see the way they looked at her or the way they whispered to each other. She did not see the hatred in their eyes. She had no idea that in 3 days they would try to kill her. And she had no idea that she would send all 4 of them to the infirmary in 14 seconds. Drex. Varanthe had been the most feared cadet at the Galactic Military Academy for 2 years. He was Thornery, born on a world where only the strong survived. His scales were dark green, almost black, and they covered his entire body like natural armor. His claws could extend 3 inches from his fingertips, sharp enough to cut through standard combat armor. A ridge of spines ran down his back, and when he was angry, they stood up like the fins of some ancient predator. His people had been warriors for thousands of years. Long before they reached the stars, they had conquered their entire planet. They had hunted every other species to extinction or submission. When they finally joined the galactic community, they brought that same warrior spirit with them. Thornery soldiers were famous throughout known space. They served as bodyguards for the wealthy and powerful. They formed elite units in every major military. They were respected. They were feared, and Drex was one of the best of them. He had won every combat tournament at the academy. He had defeated cadets from a dozen different species. Korathi, Valeth, Braxi, Murney, it did not matter. None of them could match him. He was stronger, faster, and more ruthless than any of them, until the human arrived. Drex had heard the stories, of course. Everyone had heard the stories. The Deathworlders from a Class 12 planet. The impossible survivors who came from a world that should have killed them. The soft, fragile-looking creatures who somehow managed to be more dangerous than they appeared. He did not believe any of it. He had seen humans on the news feeds. They were small. They had no claws, no scales, no natural armor of any kind. Their skin was thin and easily cut. Their bones were light and easily broken. They could not see in the dark. They could not smell danger. They could not hear sounds outside a narrow range. They were prey animals pretending to be predators, and Drex was going to prove it. He watched the human. During class, he watched her sit quietly and take not ease. He watched her answer questions in a calm, polite voice. He watched her move through the academy with her shoulders back and her head high, as if she actually belonged here. It made him sick she was making fools of them all. The entire galaxy was afraid of these creatures, and for what? Because they came from a planet with bad weather? Because their world had some dangerous animals? His world had dangerous animals too. Every Thornery child learned to fight before they could walk. They were raised in competition, in combat, in blood. These humans knew nothing about real survival. They knew nothing about being a true predator. Drex decided to teach them. He found his closest friends that evening in the common area. Kira Senth was Thornery, like himself, female, but just as deadly. Her scales were lighter, almost silver, and her eyes were cold and calculating. She had grown up in the same warrior culture as Drex, and she shared his contempt for the weak. The other two were Braxy. Mox Velik was short but incredibly strong, with arms like tree trunks and a skull covered in thick bone plates. Torn Haleth was slightly taller and slightly faster, but built the same way. The Braxy were not as prestigious as the Thornery, but they were solid fighters. Their bones were so dense that they could take hits that would cripple other species. "I want to talk about the human," Drex said. Kira's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "The Deathworlder. What about her? She does not belong here. She is weak. She is prey. And everyone is treating her like she is something special." Mox grunted in agreement. "I saw a Korathi officer step out of her way in the corridor yesterday." "A Korathi. Stepping aside for that soft little thing, it is embarrassing," Torn added. "The whole galaxy has lost its mind over these humans." "They are nothing." "Exactly," Drex said. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I think we should prove it." Kira tilted her head. "Prove it how?" "There is a practical exercise in 3 days. Commander Veth wants us to practice close-quarters defense scenarios. Small groups. Live sparring. Things get rough in those exercises. People get hurt." "You want to hurt the human," Kira said. It was not a question. "I want to show everyone what she really is. A soft, weak, fragile little prey animal who has no business being at this academy." The four of them exchanged looks. Drex could see the agreement in their eyes. They all felt the same way. They all wanted to put the human in her place. "Nothing too serious," Drex continued. "A few bruises, maybe a broken bone. Something that the medical bay can fix, easily, but enough to prove that humans are not special, not dangerous, not worthy of the fear everyone seems to have for them." "No, what if she is better than we think?" Mox asked. Drex laughed. The sound was harsh and cold. "Look at her. She weighs maybe 60 kilograms. She has no claws, no armor, nothing. There are 4 of us. 4 trained combat cadets against 1 soft little human. It will be over in seconds." Kira smiled, showing her teeth. "I like it. When do we move?" "During the exercise, we will make sure our group is assigned to the same training area as hers. When the sparring starts, we attack together. Fast and hard. By the time anyone realizes what is happening, she will be on the ground. And if anyone asks questions, training accidents happen. Everyone knows that. Commander Veth will not be happy, but he will not be able to prove anything. And even if he suspects, what can he do? Expel 4 cadets for being too aggressive in a combat exercise." The plan was set. For the next 3 days, they watched the human carefully. They studied how she moved, how she stood, how she reacted to things. They looked for weaknesses. They found plenty. She was slow compared to a thornery. Her reflexes seemed dull. She did not have the same predator awareness that Drex and Kira had developed over years of hunting. She walked through the academy like she was taking a stroll through a garden, completely unaware of the danger around her. It was almost too easy. On the morning of the exercise, Drex woke early. He stretched his muscles and extended his claws, testing their sharpness. Today was the day. Today he would show the galaxy what humans really were. He met the others outside Training Hall 9. They were all ready. All eager. "Remember," Drex said quietly. "We hit her together. All at once. Do not give her time to react. Do not give her time to think. Fast and hard. Fast and hard," the others repeated. They entered the training hall. The human was already there, standing near the back of the room. She was stretching her arms, rolling her neck, loosening her muscles. She looked relaxed, comfortable, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Commander Veth called the class to order. He explained the exercise. Close quarters defense scenarios. Small groups. Live sparring. Drex made sure his group was assigned to the same training area as the human. The cadets spread out across the hall. Training weapons were handed out, though for this particular exercise, they would not be needed. This was hand-to-hand only. Katie Morgan stood on her mat alone. She bounced lightly on her feet, warming up. Her eyes were calm. Her breathing was steady. Drex positioned himself behind her. Kira moved to her left. Mox and Torn spread out on either side. The human did not seem to notice. She just kept stretching, kept bouncing, kept looking straight ahead. Commander Veth raised his hand. "Begin." Drex lunged, and everything he thought he knew about humans changed forever. Later, the security footage would be studied by military experts across a dozen worlds. They would slow it down frame by frame. They would analyze every movement, every strike, every moment of the fight. They would write reports and academic papers about what they saw, but in the training hall, in real time. It happened so fast that most of the witnesses could not even follow what was happening. Drex attacked from behind. It was a classic thornery opening strike perfected over thousands of years of warfare. He came in low and fast, his claws extended, aiming for the soft spot between the human's shoulder blades. It was a blow that had ended countless fights. A blow that should have dropped her instantly. His claws never touched her. Katie moved before he even reached her. She did not look back. She did not check over her shoulder. She simply pivoted on her left foot, spinning out of the path of his attack as if she had known exactly where he would be, and exactly when he would strike. Her elbow drove backward into his chest. The impact was harder than anything Drex had ever felt. His scales cracked. His breath exploded out of his lungs. His body folded around the point of contact, and he staggered backward, gasping 2 seconds. Kira came in from the left. She was faster than Drex, more agile. Her spines were raised, her teeth were bared, and she was already swinging her claws in a wide arc designed to catch the human across the face. Katie caught her wrist. The movement was smooth and economical. No wasted motion, no hesitation. She grabbed Kira's arm just below the hand, twisted, and used the thornery's own momentum against her. Kira felt herself spinning through the air. She hit the training mat face first hard enough to bounce. Something in her shoulder made a wet popping sound. She screamed. For seconds, Mox did not hesitate. He had seen what happened to Drex and Kira, but he was Braxy. His bones were thick. His skull was armored. He could take hits that would kill other species. He lowered his head and charged straight at the human like a living battering ram. Katie did not try to stop him. She did not try to block him. Instead, she stepped to the side at the last possible moment and swept his legs out from under him with a single, precise kick. Mox was moving too fast to recover. He pitched forward, his armored skull hitting the mat with a heavy thud. Before he could push himself up, Katie was on him. Her knee came down on his lower back, right on the spine, with all her weight behind it. Mox felt something shift inside him. Something that should not shift. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. He could not move his legs. 8 seconds, Torn was smarter than the others. He had hung back, watching, waiting for an opening. He had seen how fast the human was. He had seen how efficient her movements were. He knew that a direct attack would not work, so he waited until she was dealing with mocks. He waited until her back was turned. Then he threw himself at her with everything he had. It should have worked. She was busy. She was not looking. He had the element of surprise. He did not have the element of surprise. Katie moved before he reached her. She stepped into his attack rather than away from it, closing the distance so fast that Torn did not have time to adjust. Her palm struck the underside of his jaw. The impact snapped his head back. His teeth clicked together hard enough to crack two of them. Before he could recover, her other hand grabbed his arm. She pivoted, turning her hip into his body. Torn felt himself lifted off the ground. He was flying through the air. He saw the ceiling. He saw the lights. He saw Drex, still trying to catch his breath, directly below him. He landed on top of the other Thornery. The impact drove what little air Drex had managed to recover back out of his lungs. 14 seconds. The training hall was silent. Katie straightened up. She rolled her shoulders. She smoothed down the front of her uniform. Her breathing was slightly elevated, but steady. Her heart rate was up, but not by much. There was not a single mark on her. Not a scratch. Not a bruise. Nothing. 4 bodies lay on the mat around her. Drex was curled into a ball, struggling to breathe. Kira was holding her shoulder and whimpering. Mox was face down and not moving. Torn was tangled up with Drex, moaning through a broken J. Oh, Commander Veth stood frozen at the edge of the training area. All 4 of his eyes were wide. His mouth hung open slightly. In 30 years of teaching at the academy, he had never seen anything like this. The other cadets were just as stunned. They stared at the human with a mixture of shock, fear, and something that might have been awe. None of them said a word. None of them moved. Katie turned to face the instructor. Her expression was calm, apologetic even. "Sorry, sir," she said. Her voice was steady and polite. "They came at me all at once. Reflex." She called it reflex. Commander Veth found his voice. "Cadets," he said slowly. "Someone called the medical bay. Tell them we have 4 incoming." There was a scramble of activity. Cadets rushed to help the wounded. Medical alerts were triggered. Hover stretchers were brought out. Through it all, Katie stood quietly to the side and watched. She did not look triumphant. She did not look proud. If anything, she looked a little sad. As the medical team loaded Drex onto a stretcher, his eyes met hers. He expected to see gloating. He expected to see contempt. Instead, he saw something he did not understand: compassion. She felt sorry for him, that more than the beating, more than the humiliation, more than the pain, was what broke something inside Drex Varanthe. She had destroyed him in 14 seconds, and she felt sorry for him. As if he was not a threat. As if he had never been a threat. As if the whole thing was just a minor inconvenience. The medical team carried him away. The last thing he saw before the doors closed was Katie Morgan, standing alone in the center of the training hall, surrounded by 24 cadets who were all looking at her with new eyes. The human, the Deathworlder, the monster wearing a friendly face. She was everything they had feared. Everything and more. Commander Veth dismissed the class early. There was no point in continuing. No one could focus on anything except what they had just witnessed. As the cadets filed out, they gave Katie a wide berth. But it was not the same kind of distance they had kept before. Before, they had avoided her because they did not know what to make of her. Now, they avoided her because they knew exactly what she was. Katie gathered her things and left the training hall alone. She walked back to her quarters, through corridors that went silent as she approached. She closed her door behind her and sat down on her bed. She looked at her hands. Steady, clean, no blood. No broken skin. Back on Earth, this would have been nothing. A minor scuffle. A self-defense situation that lasted less time than it took to order coffee. Her instructors at the Earth Defense Academy would have called it adequate. Maybe even below average. A properly trained human soldier would have ended it in half the time. But here, in the galactic community, it was something else entirely. Here, it was a message. Do not underestimate us. Do not mistake our soft skin for weakness. Do not think that because we smile, we cannot bite. Katie lay back on her bed and stared at the ceiling. She had not wanted this. She had not come to the academy to hurt people or prove how dangerous she was. She had come to learn, to make friends, to build bridges between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Instead, she had just sent 4 cadets to the infirmary. She wondered what would happen next. The medical bay on Station Vareth 7 was equipped to handle almost any injury from almost any species. It had regeneration tanks for the Veleth, bone-setting machines for the Braxi, and scale repair technology for the Thornery. The doctors there had seen everything from training accidents to actual combat, wounds. But they had never seen anything quite like this. Drex Varanthi had 2 cracked scales on his chest and severe bruising. To his internal organs, the doctors told him he was lucky. Another few centimeters to the left, and the human's elbow would have ruptured his secondary heart. Kira Senth's shoulder was dislocated. The ball joint had been pulled completely out of the socket. The doctors had to put her under sedation to reset it properly. She would be in a sling for at least a week. Mox Velik was the worst. 3 of his vertebrae were compressed. The human's knee had come down on his spine with enough force to shift the bones. He could still walk, but he would need physical therapy for months. The doctors said he was lucky he was not paralyzed. Torn Haleth's jaw was fractured in 2 places. They had to wire it shut while the bones healed. He would be eating through a tube for the next several days. 4 trained combat cadets. 4 warriors from species known throughout the galaxy for their fighting ability. All of them taken down in less time, and it took to count to 15. By one human, the news spread through the academy faster than light. By evening, everyone had heard some version of the story. Some said it was 20 seconds. Some said 30. A few said the human had killed one of them and brought him back with some kind of Deathworld medicine. The truth was bad enough. Dean, Mirith Solani, sat in her office, reading the security footage report for the 3rd time. She was old, even by Valeth's standards. Her crystal skin had grown cloudy with age, and her movements were slow and careful. But her mind was sharp as ever. She had been running this academy for 40 years. She had seen countless students come and go. She had dealt with fights, rivalries, scandals, and diplomatic incidents. She thought she had seen everything. She had never seen anything like Cadet Katie Morgan. The footage was clear. 4 cadets had attacked the humans simultaneously without warning, during what was supposed to be a supervised training exercise. The human had defended herself. Nothing more, nothing less. But the way she had done it. The speed. The precision. The absolute efficiency of every movement. Dean Solani had watched warriors fight her entire life. She knew what combat looked like. She knew what skill looked like. She had never seen anything like this. The door chimed. "Come in," she said. Katie Morgan entered. She was still wearing her cadet uniform, clean and pressed. Her face was calm, but there was something in her eyes. Concern, perhaps? Or worry? "You wanted to see me, ma'am?" "Sit down, cadet." Katie sat in the chair across from the dean's desk. She sat up straight, her hands folded in her lap. Proper posture. Respectful attitude. Nothing about her suggested she had just beaten 4 people into the medical bay. "Would you care to explain what happened in Training Hall 9 this afternoon?" "Yes, ma'am." Katie's voice was steady. 4 cadets attacked me during the exercise. They came at me all at once, from different directions. I defended myself. "You put 4 trained combat cadets in the infirmary, yes, ma'am, in 14 seconds. Katie paused. "I was not counting, ma'am. But that sounds about right." Dean Solani leaned back in her chair. Her crystal skin flickered with complex patterns of light, emotions that Katie could not read. "The Thornery Consulate has already filed a formal complaint. They claim you used excessive force. They are demanding that you be expelled and possibly prosecuted." Katie's expression did not change. "With respect, ma'am, I disagree." "And why is that?" "Because if I had used excessive force, those 4 cadets would not be in the infirmary. They would be in the morgue. The words hung in the air. Dean Solani studied the human carefully. You genuinely believe that? I know it, ma'am. Katie's voice was quiet but firm. I have been trained in combat since I was 6 years old. Every human child is. Our world requires it. We learn to fight before we learn to read. We learn to survive before we learn anything else. Tell me about your world, Cadet. Katie thought about it. How could she explain Earth to someone who had never been there? How could she describe a planet where everything was trying to kill you all the time? There is a creature on Earth called a honey badger, she said finally. It is small, maybe 12 kilograms, but it is fearless. Absolutely fearless. It will attack lions. It will fight snakes. It will go up against animals 10 times its size without hesitation. Not because it is stupid, but because it refuses to give up. No matter how badly it is hurt, no matter how much bigger the enemy is, it keeps fighting. It never stops. Everything on Earth is like that. Every creature, every plant, every bacteria, they all fight to survive. They all refuse to die. That is what our planet is. That is what shaped us. That is why we are the way we are. Dean Solani was quiet for a long moment. And you, Cadet Morgan? Are you like this honey badger? Every human is, ma'am. We do not look dangerous. We do not have claws or scales or armor. But we survived Earth. We survived ice ages, and plagues and predators and disasters. We survived things that should have wiped us out 100 times over. We are still here. We will always be here. The security footage supports your account, the Dean said slowly. It is clear that you were attacked first. It is clear that you only defended yourself. The Thornery complaint will go nowhere. Katie nodded. Thank you, ma'am. However, Dean Solani leaned forward. I am going to ask you something unofficial. Something that will not appear in any report. Yes, ma'am. Please try not to break any more of my students. For the first time, Katie almost smiled. I will do my best, ma'am. I mean it, Cadet. I understand that you were defending yourself. I understand that you held back. But the political situation is delicate. Humanity is new to the galactic community. There are many who fear you. Many who would use any excuse to argue that humans should not be trusted. I understand, ma'am, do you? The Dean's skin flickered again. For cadets attacked you today because they thought you were weak. They thought they could prove T. Hat humans are nothing special. Instead, you proved the opposite. You proved that humans are everything the galaxy fears them to be. Katie was quiet. She did not know what to say. That is not necessarily a bad thing, Dean Solani continued. Fear can be useful. Respect is better. But fear will do in a pinch. She paused. The question is, what comes next? How do you want the galaxy to see humanity? I want them to see the truth, ma'am. And what is the truth? Katie thought about it carefully before answering. The truth is that we are dangerous. We cannot change that. We came from a world that would kill most species in ours. We evolved to survive the unsurvivable. We are predators. Apex predators. The most successful survival machines our planet ever produced. She paused. But that is not all we are. We are also builders, artists, dreamers. We create things. We help people. We form friendships and alliances. We love, we sacrifice. We protect the weak and stand up to the strong. Our capacity for violence is matched by our capacity for kindness. A comforting thought, Dean Solani said. But is it true? Look at what happened today, ma'am. For people attacked me. I could have killed them. I could have ended their lives before they even knew what was happening. But I did not. I stopped them. I hurt them. But I did not kill them. Because they were not enemies. They were just stupid kids who made a stupid choice. The Dean was silent. That is the truth about humans, Katie said. We are dangerous because we choose when to be dangerous. We have the power to destroy, but we do not use it unless we have to. We are monsters who choose to be heroes. Dean Solani looked at the human for a long time. Then, slowly, she nodded. Thank you, Cadet Morgan. You are dismissed. Katie stood. Thank you, ma'am. She walked to the door. As she reached for the handle, the dean spoke again. Cadet? Katie turned. Yes, ma'am. For what it is worth, I hope you are right about your species. The galaxy could use more heroes, even the monstrous kind. Katie nodded once. Then she left. The story of what happened in Training Hall 9 spread far beyond the academy walls. Within days, it had reached every corner of the station. Within weeks, it had spread to other worlds. News feeds picked it up. Military analysts discussed it. Politicians debated what it meant for human integration into galactic society. But inside the academy itself, the effects were more immediate and more personal. Katie noticed the change the very next morning. When she walked to breakfast, cadets who had avoided her before now stepped aside with something that looked different from fear. They nodded at her as she passed. A few of them even made eye contact. Respect. She was seeing respect. It was not universal, of course. Some cadets still looked at her with suspicion or hostility. Some whispered when they thought she could not hear. But the overall atmosphere had shifted. She was no longer just the scary Deathworlder that everyone avoided. She was something else now. Something more. The Valeth, who had sat next to her in class, approached her during lunch. His name was Saren Kalth, and his crystal skin flickered nervously as he spoke. Cadet Morgan, he said. May I sit with you? Katie looked up from her food. Of course, Saren sat down across from her. He was quiet for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. I wanted to apologize, he said finally. For my behavior on your first day, I moved away from you in class. I treated you like you were dangerous. I am dangerous, Katie said simply. Yes, but that is not why I moved. I moved because I was afraid. Because I did not understand you. Because everything I had heard about humans made me think you were some kind of monster. He paused. I was wrong. Katie set down her fork. What changed your mind? What happened in the training hall? Saren's skin pulsed with soft blue light. I saw the footage. Everyone saw the footage. 4 cadets attacked you. You defeated them in 14 seconds. You could have killed them easily. But you did not. They were not enemies, Katie said. Just idiots. That is exactly my point. Saren leaned forward. The Thornery do not understand restraint. When they fight to win. To dominate. To prove their superiority. If Drex Varanthe had been in your position, he would have killed you without hesitation. He would not have held back. I know, but you did hold back. You had all the power, all the advantage, and you chose to show mercy. That is not the behavior of a monster. That is the behavior of a warrior. A true warrior. Someone who knows the difference between what they can do and what they should do. Katie did not know how to respond. Back on Earth, what she had done would have been considered normal, expected, even underwhelming. But here, among species who had evolved differently, who had different instincts and different values, it meant something else entirely. Thank you, she said finally. That means a lot. Over the following days, more cadets approached her. Some wanted to apologize for how they had treated her. Others wanted to ask questions about Earth, about humans, about what it was like to grow up on a death world. A few even asked if she would be willing to spar with them, to help them understand human combat techniques. Katie agreed to all of it. She answered questions patiently. She shared stories about Earth. She sparred carefully, always holding back, always making sure she did not hurt anyone. She was building bridges. One conversation at a time, one friendship at a time, but there was one conversation she had not expected. It happened 2 weeks after the incident. Katie was in the academy library, studying for an upcoming exam on interspecies tactical communication. The room was quiet. With only a handful of other cadets scattered among the tables and shelves, a shadow fell across her datapad. She looked up. Drex Varanthe stood there. His scales had healed. The cracks in his chest had been repaired. He moved a little stiffly. But otherwise, he looked the same as before. Big, intimidating, covered in natural armor and armed, natural weapons. But something was different about his eyes. Katie did not react. She simply looked at him and waited. "May I sit?" he asked. His voice was rough. Uncomfortable, Katie gestured to the chair across from her. "Go ahead," Drex sat down. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "I wanted to say something," he said finally. "What I did was wrong. I attacked you without honor. I brought others to help me because I was too cowardly to face you alone. I tried to hurt you to make myself feel better about my own weakness." Katie remained silent, listening. "When you defeated us, you could have killed us. I know that now. I did not believe it before. I thought humans were weak. I thought your reputation was just propaganda. But I was wrong. You held back. You showed mercy. Even after we tried to ambush you," he paused. His claws clicked against the table. "I do not understand why you did that. If I had been in your position, I would have killed all of you. I would have proven my dominance. That is what I was raised to do. That is what my people value." "I know," Katie said. "So why did you hold back?" Katie thought about it. "Because killing you would not have accomplished anything. You were not trying to murder me. You were trying to prove a point. A stupid point, but still a point. And I did not need to kill you to prove mine." "What point?" "That humans are not monsters. We are not mindless predators who attack everything that moves. We have control, discipline. We choose when to fight and when to show mercy. That is what makes us dangerous. Not our strength, not our speed, our judgment." Max was quiet. His eyes were fixed on her face. "I spent my whole life believing that strength was everything," he said slowly. "That the strongest warrior always wins. That mercy is weakness. But you showed me something different. You showed me that true strength is knowing when not to use your power." "It took me a long time to learn that," Katie admitted. "On Earth, we have a saying. With great power comes great responsibility. It means that the stronger you are, the more careful you have to be. Because your mistakes hurt other people more." "I made a mistake," Drex said. "I let my pride and my fear control me. I will not make that mistake again." He stood up. Katie looked at him. "I do not expect us to be friends," he said. "I do not deserve that. But I wanted you to know that I respect you, and I will not stand in your way again." He extended his hand. The human gesture, the one he had seen in educational Vist. Katie looked at his hand. Then she reached out and shook it. "Apology accepted," she said. Drex nodded once. Then he turned and walked away. Katie watched him go. She felt something warm spreading through her chest. Not triumph. Not satisfaction. Something softer. Something more hopeful. She had come to this academy to represent humanity. To show the galaxy that humans could be trusted. That they were not the monsters everyone feared. She had expected it to take years. She had expected resistance and setbacks and failures. Instead, in just a few weeks, she had started something. A change, a shift in how at least some aliens saw her species. It was not much. A handful of cadets who now saw humans differently. A former enemy who had learned to respect her. A few friendships forming where there had only been fear before. But it was a start, and that was all any human needed. Just a start. Just a chance. Give humanity a foothold, and they would climb to the stars. Give them an opportunity, and they would build empires. Give them a single moment of hope, and they would never stop fighting for a better future. That was what it meant to be human. That was what it meant to come from a death world. Not just the ability to survive, but the refusal to ever give up. Katie went back to her studies.